Was Kelly Clarkson's ex, Brandon Blackstock, dating her former assistant before he died?
Brandon and I are hustling, definitely around the ranch, trying to make it happen. And I 100%, none of this would be happening without my partner in crime.
Kelly Clarkson's world tilted when Brandon Blackstock's obituary quietly named his beautiful and loving partner, a woman who once worked inside Kelly's circle. Suddenly, the Montana businesses, the eyebrow-raising timeline, and that 2.6 million courtroom twist look very different. And then Reba McEntire's Raw tribute added a layer no one saw coming. Here's how all the pieces connect, and why fans can't stop talking. The first crack in the story didn't come from a gossip blog. It came from the official goodbye. In Brandon Blackstock's obituary, one line did all the heavy lifting. He was survived by a beautiful and loving partner, Brittany Marie Jones. Not a vague friend, not a business contact, a partner in life and in work. The same notice credits the two of them with building a new Montana chapter, Headwaters Livestock Auction, Valley View Rodeo, a world far from red carpets and network studios. There's no mention of Kelly Clarkson, no nod to their long public history, just a snapshot of the life Brandon was living at the end. That single paragraph reset the narrative. Suddenly, the Montana ventures weren't just a post-divorce pivot, they were the foundation of a very personal partnership. And the wording, so warm, so deliberate, made the internet stop and ask the question no one expected to revisit. Who exactly is Brittany, and how close did she once stand to Kelly's inner circle? But that wasn't the whole story. Meet Brittany Marie Jones, the name tucked inside Brandon's obituary that sent fans digging through old credits and crew lists. For years, she wasn't a headline. She was the helper behind one. As Kelly Clarkson's assistant from 2016 to 2020, she lived in the details: calendars, call sheets, travel changes, kid logistics, last-minute studio pivots. That role meant proximity, the kind where you hear the hallway whispers and see the stress long before the public does. Then 2020 hit like a plot twist. Kelly filed for divorce. Brittany exited her job that same year, and almost immediately, a different Montana chapter started forming around Brandon. Auctions, rodeo nights, small-town founders' photos, the kind of work where rugged boots replace red carpets. By the time the obituary named Brittany his beautiful and loving partner, the dots felt painfully easy to connect, even if the exact start date of their relationship remains a question mark. Online sleuths surfaced a family post calling Brandon her soulmate, and forums ran with it. Fair warning, that's the internet talking, not a court record. Still, the optics are brutal from Kelly's side. A former insider from her own team later standing beside her ex in life and business? That's the sort of detail that makes even casual fans sit up. And when you start laying the dates next to each other, the timeline gets even louder. Here's how the puzzle pieces lock in when you line up the dates. Kelly and Brandon marry in 2013. Fast forward to mid-2020. Kelly files for divorce, and that same year, Brittany steps away from her role in Kelly's world and drifts toward Montana. The legal fight over money centers on deals Brandon procured between 2017 and 2020. A later ruling says those commissions shouldn't have been his. By 2022, the divorce is finalized, with the court allowing a temporary arrangement for Brandon to remain on the Montana property by paying monthly rent until mid-year. Then comes the pivot. The ranch becomes the launch pad for a new identity: auctions, rodeo nights, a small-town circuit that takes shape through 2023 and shows up publicly by late 2024 with Valley View Rodeo. In early August 2025, the story takes its final turn with Brandon's passing after a cancer battle. Stacked together, the sequence doesn't prove an overlap, but it does explain why fans keep circling the same question. And the money trail only makes the timeline louder. Money doesn't just change a story, it defines it. A state labor ruling hit Brandon with a $2.6 million payback order tied to deals he unlawfully procured while managing Kelly between 2017 and 2020. Translation: under California's rules, only licensed agents can land certain gigs, and commissions on those deals had to be returned. The headlines weren't about one check. They were about a pattern of payouts that never should have cleared in the first place, including money tied to The Voice, Then came the cleanup. Lawyers huddled, accountants combed through years of paperwork, and by the spring of 2024, the courtroom heat cooled. Cases were dismissed after a confidential settlement. No juicy document dump, no public gloating, just 2 signatures, sealed terms, and a rare moment of quiet in a very loud saga. Here's a myth that refuses to die. People say Kelly was paying for Brandon's ranch. The documented reality is different. After the split, he paid monthly rent, $12,500, to stay on the Montana property until he had to move out. That detail matters because it flips the victim narrative people love to repeat and puts the financial burden back where the court said it belonged. Stack those pieces and you get the stakes: a multi-million-dollar reversal, a hush-hush resolution, and a property fight that didn't go the way the internet claims. Which is why what happened next in Montana, auctions, rodeo nights, and a brand new identity, raised even more eyebrows. Montana wasn't a hideout, it was a reset button. Headwaters Livestock Auction gave Brandon a new lane: sale days, ringmen, and the kind of handshake economy where relationships move faster than paperwork. Valley View Rodeo added the spotlight: barrels, broncs, families in the bleachers, and sponsors lining the rails. It wasn't Hollywood fame, it was local gravity, and it started to look like a brand. Inside that shift, Brittany wasn't just present, she was pivotal. The assistant who once color-coded calendars now wrangled contractors, vendors, riders, safety crews, permits, and social posts. Brandon worked the phones and the FaceTime. She kept the machine humming. Titles changed, but the skill set didn't. Anticipate problems, smooth chaos, make the day happen. That's how a 2-person vision turns into a Friday night institution. The optics were impossible to ignore. While lawyers argued over past commissions, a parallel story took root: a cowboy country identity built on consistency and community. New logos, fresh marketing, a schedule that became habit for locals. The ranch became more than an address. It was infrastructure: pens, arenas, parking, concessions, a place to gather. Whatever you believed about the divorce, the rebrand sold itself: less red carpet, more red dirt. And that's why the obituary line hit like it did. Partner in life and business didn't just describe a relationship, it explained the engine behind the Montana chapter. He brought connections, she brought execution. Together, they made a new orbit that didn't need Nashville to spin. But while that world was finding its rhythm, Kelly made a decision that surprised everyone, one that said more about character than headlines. Kelly didn't clap back. She went quiet. Taping shifted, guest hosts filled chairs, and the studio rumor mill spun without her feeding it. No cryptic quotes, no sources close to, just absence, and a purpose behind it. She pressed pause on the fun stuff too: the Vegas studio sessions, the easy wins, the momentum she'd been building, pushed aside so she could be with River and Remington during their dad's health fight. One short note to fans said everything: the kids come first, full stop. There were no subtweets about Montana, no side-eye at rodeo nights, no timeline talk about who knew what, when. When people expected fireworks, she chose a flashlight, steady, pointed where it mattered, never in anyone's eyes. And that restraint did something headlines rarely manage: it changed the room. Even critics admitted the grace it takes to set anger aside when your children need calm. She protected their bubble, honored a private battle, and let the gossip burn itself out without her oxygen. But silence wasn't the only voice people heard. A country legend stepped forward with a message that stopped everyone in their tracks. Reba spoke and the room went still. This wasn't a press release. It was a mother's voice for a son she helped raise. Memories from stages and ranch roads, snapshots that felt like home. No score settling, no subtext, just love. She called him her boy. She signed off with a simple farewell: rest easy, cowboy, happy trails. And you could feel the ache between the lines. That mattered because Reba lived in the middle of this story. She was Brandon's stepmom for decades, and Kelly's friend long before the wedding vows. In 2021, when the divorce turned messy, she said it out loud: I love them both, and I'm pulling for both. Country folks heard that and understood the code. Family first. Keep the dust on your boots, not in your mouth. Her tribute kept that promise. It didn't poke at lawsuits or timelines. It didn't mention who did what, when. It celebrated a life, honored a bond, and left the rest to silence. And somehow that restraint hit harder than any headline. But a eulogy can't answer every question. It can only show you the character of the people left behind. Which brings us to the final knot in this story, the line between what's documented and what the internet wants to believe. In the end, the paper trail and the personal trail tell two different stories. On paper, there's an assistant-turned-partner, a Montana rebrand, and a $2.6 million reckoning that rewrote old paydays. In real life, there's a mother shielding two kids and a country icon saying goodbye to a son in everything but blood. The obituary gave us names, the timeline gave us questions, the grace on display gave us the part people will remember. What no one can prove is the peace the internet craves, when exactly a working relationship became something more. Maybe that answer lives in private messages and unposted photos. Maybe it doesn't matter, because when the dust settled, the headline wasn't about revenge, it was about restraint. Kelly chose quiet, Reba chose love, and the rest lives in the gray area where public lives always do. So here's the real takeaway. Trust is fragile, timelines are loud, and character is what you do when the cameras aren't rolling. Do you see this as a scandal that finally added up? Or a family story that defied the script?